What does it mean to be a woman of the league?
I think we're the backbone.
He called me and he's just like, I got traded. And I was like, wait, what?
My heart is racing. I feel like I need to protect him, you know, from other people sometimes.
My DMs get filled up with even like death threats, a good old word, prenup.
I'm glad you said it and not me.
Watching him follow his dreams, it made me want to like, okay, like I want to get my shit together.
Where do you see your TikTok comments? You're having a baby right now.
We are like 5 words away from wrapping people.
Join us on the next episode. Hi, and welcome back to Women of the League. I'm your host, Josie Leinart, and with me here today is Allison Rochell, Christen Harper, Kim Jackson, and Whitney Reisner. So, ladies, okay, we talked about how every family has their ups and downs, and you guys are definitely no exception. And as Kim mentioned last episode, y'all are really like the backbones of a very unique family, and that's an NFL family. So you have challenges that are really unique to your circumstances and challenges that I don't think people looking from the outside in think about before maybe today. So let's dive in on what it means to be an NFL family. Whitney, why don't you walk us through just a day in the life? What is it like to be with Dalton during the season?
Normally, he is injured or is fighting through some injury. Not injured out of the game, but just injured in the sense of a broken finger or a torn ligament in his hand that he continues to play with. So normally he leaves the house early in the morning for treatment. Normally doesn't get home till like 6 or 7 at night. So I spend like most of the day just like getting my stuff done. You know, we spend a lot of time apart, and each day is different, but a lot of times we prioritize different things like when he gets home, reading devotionals together, you know, just getting our time together. Faith is important to us, so that's something that we prioritize every night. And then occasionally slipping in like some date nights, you know.
What do you guys like to do on date nights?
Yeah, so honestly, like the ultimate date night for us is the movie theater. I get a frozen blue slushie with a large popcorn and Sour Patch Kids, and he gets like some kind of chocolate, and we both just, honestly, we love like lighthearted movies, so like kids movies, like animated movies, we love.
That's like perfect because y'all can relax, but still spend time together.
Yeah.
That seems like the perfect season date night.
I try to tell Jeffrey, like, let's walk into downtown. He's like, Kim, I don't want to take a 2-mile walk.
Yeah.
Getting them to walk is like...
You run all day. What's a walk? It's a cool down.
Right. Yeah.
I have really terrible news, by the way. That still happens once they retire. I cannot get my husband to walk with me for the life
That's
of
crazy.
it.
I love a good walk. And he refuses.
No, he's like, my hip.
Right.
Oh, I was not even trying to hike.
When we first moved to Denver, I was like, we should go on a hike, and he's like, no. Like, don't ever ask me that again.
Okay, what is the biggest challenges you guys find to being part of an NFL family? Because as we mentioned, it's pretty unique.
I feel like it's the unknowns. I mean, it's not even the unknowns, it's the knowns that turn into unknowns.
Yep.
And so it's just like the uncertainty of the lifestyle, uncertainty of where you're gonna be living, and oh, you're gonna be living in Cleveland, maybe not. Like, stay on your toes.
I thrive off of a schedule, and like, I guess just being able to like have a set plan about like what my days look like. So for me, it's really tough going between off season, on season, like not knowing where you're at, because once I move from somewhere, it takes me like a good month and a half to like really settle in, make sure I have all the spices in the cabinet that I need to like make, and like without those random like grocery store, like, oh, we still don't have this, and we still don't have this, and we still don't have this, and then like this got lost while we were moving, and like things just keep getting lost, and you have to keep replacing things, and then you have triple of one thing, and it's like so it just takes me a long time to really get settled back into our house during the off season, and then the apartment in season, and then that takes a long time, and then now I just feel like I'm kind of on vacation both times, and then I feel like I'm 2 different people, and then it's hard. You have to just adjust, and I feel like that's hard because you get settled, and then you get picked up, and then you get settled, and you get picked up.
So like this season we moved and we didn't bring anything with us except our clothes, and so that's even hard, just like maintaining a routine.
Wait, why didn't you guys take your stuff?
Honestly, because we didn't know if we were gonna stay.
Oh.
And that's something I feel like I haven't been as vulnerable about, but like I feel like if we had made the commitment to move, or at least half of our furniture like to live on, I think it would have stressed out Isaac, and he is like a super mental guy that he didn't even want me to go out there until after he made the team, which would have been absolutely hilarious because he made the team and then didn't make the team.
You mentioned that in moving from California, you left behind a really great group of friends. I'm sure you've all experienced that. So moving to a new place, who do you guys find your support group?
I think last year for us was extremely hard. That was our first year after being with the same team for 4 years. All of our friends stayed there for 4 years, and then we made a move to Indiana. In social settings, I'm gonna be sometimes more reserved. I'm trying to like go outside my comfort zone to be better, because it's like what you put into it, you get out. But last year, I was very reserved. I had one friend, and we got super close, and halfway through the season, she and her boyfriend ended up going to a new team. It can be very isolating. And I think this year, making the same move, I've learned from last year, like reaching out to like friends, like a FaceTime can make you feel so much less alone. And it's sometimes the only conversations I would have would be my husband. And it's like, then he's like talking about, you know, his work, and it can be very taxing on your own mental health. You're like, I'm trying to like, you know, keep myself together, but also like support him and be in this new city and make the best of it, because this is a huge blessing being in the NFL. But it's also like, dang, like this kind of sucks sometimes. Like being away from friends and family, it's hard.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of got lucky. Dalt's whole family lives in Colorado, so that was like an easier transition. Like I was away from my family and friends, but he has a big family, so for me, I feel like I was blessed to have like his family, brothers, parents there to like make that transition easy. But you definitely feel that when they're gone all day and you're like there having interactions there, like, you know, hanging with their friends on the team, and it just like, I feel like it does feel super lonely sometimes during the day.
I mean, in LA, it was such a different experience for me because I did have friends and family, so I wasn't as involved with the women on the team because I was so busy with my career and my family. But moving to Detroit, it was like such a stark contrast. I had nothing there. So I really like relied on the women on the team, and we like would work out. We would make workout groups, and we would have like wine nights or whatever just to get together. And even though in the beginning kind of feels a little like forced, it eventually doesn't.
One of the things that we've all talked about in different ways is sacrifice. Like this is a huge sacrifice. When, you know, my husband doesn't play football anymore, but you know, he does the same football schedule, and that he's gone every weekend as a sports broadcaster. And one of the things that we talked about before he started this season was being intentional this season with our time together and what we're going to put into our relationship and putting our relationship first. And I said, you know, for me, this is a season of giving of myself because there's so much on you. And as women, I think we sacrifice for our families all the time. Like we sacrifice for husbands, for kids. And I feel like as NFL wives specifically, like you guys sacrifice so much. What does that look like to you?
I feel like for me too, because we were in LA, it was like I had the best of both worlds when we were here because I was working every day, but I could still be with Jared. But once we moved, that was like a huge sacrifice for me. I was giving up a career in LA. I worked 5 days a week and every day, and it was such a change for me. And that was really hard, and it really affected just kind of like my identity and who I was. And I had a hard time at first because that was such a big sacrifice. And I didn't even realize how important it was until I didn't have it. And I was like, I don't even know who I am without work. Like, I have spent my whole life working. So it was such a big change for me. And I'm still trying to find that balance of like still having some stuff that's my own and still working, but definitely in the off season, I feel like I
know how you feel. I mean, it's almost like you like have this identity, and then when you have to move, because you're like, okay, well, this is the person I love. It's like, shoot, like you're taking away like a huge part of me, but like there's like pros and cons to that, and so you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to be like independent, and like I love working, and I love like my passions too, and it's like, where's like the happy medium?
Exactly.
Winnie, I think you mentioned a time where you were struggling with identity and you talked about being lonely. So at that point, I imagine you needed a lot more than you were probably giving. So what did that look like between you and Dalton?
For sure. Dalton is very intentional, and he like can read me like a book, I feel like. So he was incredibly helpful during that time. I just remember like getting to a point, you know, where I was at such a low of like, you know, like I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm doing, that I was like almost like sucking life from him. And I was like, okay, like something's gotta give. Like this isn't like, I'm not bettering you. I'm not, you know, we're not positively impacting each other this time. So I think just like taking a moment, because I feel like in that situation, you know, other people can't really help you. Like you have to find yourself before like you both can move forward. So just like taking a moment, you know, some time to myself was very needed, and like us coming back together and being like, okay, you know, how can we get better? How can we grow? How can we move past this? But I feel like just like finding myself made all the difference.
It's also like even just little things, and I don't want it to sound like I'm unwilling to make the sacrifice, because I make the sacrifice because obviously we love our guys, and like, you know what I mean? And like we said, there's so many blessings, but just on the sacrifice part of it, little things down to like, I'm the only one that does things with Jace at night, you know what I mean? And he'll help sometimes, like if Jace is like really being fussy, like he'll get up and stuff, but like overall, I would say about 95% of the time it's on me. And then at the end of the day, like the sleeping thing and waking up in the middle of the night, you need your body. So it's like I can't ask you to wake up 3-4 times a night and be up for 20 minutes. And Jeffrey's sleep is so important to him. Like he's literally like one of those guys, like at 8 o'clock, his eyes are falling. Like, so it's like I can't even, so his sleep is just so important to him. And like when we came back, when I came up with Jace had like a regular night. Like he woke up like 3 times, and like I handled him. Like he just made noises. I pick him up, feed him, and then put him back down. And Jeffrey got up the morning. He was like, "Oh my gosh, how many times was he up last night?" And like he's so sick with like how much he felt like he was up, and like he really was not up. And I was like, "Oh yeah, you cannot handle this right now."
Isaac is about to watch this episode and be like, "Allie, you're crazy." I'm like, "The dog has diarrhea. Get out." I was like, "I'm not going downstairs at 3 a.m." I'm like, he's gonna watch this episode and be like, "We gotta talk."
If I had to go outside, he would be going outside. So that makes sense. But yeah.
He's
so
off the hook.
Right. Isaac still needs to take the dogs at 3 a.m. But yeah, so just little things like that, like I sacrifice. But during off season, I'm sleeping, and he will be up He will be up every single time.
You know, what you said about jealousy, like I think it's amplified that you're a mom, now that you're a mom. But I imagine like y'all must feel some kind of, I feel like jealousy is like harsh.
It is harsh, yeah.
It's harsh.
But
like we didn't wake up and choose violence today, but it is a little bit of, I mean, think about everything that we've talked about, like all the moving, all the things that you guys have to handle. And then on top of that, handling all of their like mental health and being their rock. I mean, there must be like a little part of you that's like, well, damn, I wish I had to go to the facility and train and take my hot shower and come home and have dinner cooked for me. Like, I mean, I don't want to put it that way, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but I mean, at the same time, I also wouldn't want to go to work and get hit by 300-pound men all day. So it's like, so it's like, one of his coaches were like, I don't remember what it was, but Jeffrey had like one of their meetings, I think, where they were like talking about like concussion protocols or whatever. And he was like, yeah, they told us that like us getting hit is like us being in a minor car accident like all the time. And I was like, God. No way, no way.
You've talked so much about injuries. I mean, and my gosh, Whitney, like, you're like, oh, he's going to work with broken fingers, and I'm like horrified over here. I'm like, he needs to go to a doctor.
Yeah, we literally have conversations all the time, and he's like, yeah, this ligament's gone. It's like deteriorated, and I'm like, what? And then he showed me his finger, and he was like, it was like rolled up, like his tendon was rolled up, and he's like, it'll just eventually go away, it'll deteriorate. And I'm like, well, I think you need that. Like, and he's like, no, I'm fine.
It's in your body for a reason.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. Like,
does he complain a lot about his injuries?
No.
No?
Like, I just never hear about him. And I'm like, because he knows if he were to say something, I would be like, well, then you, like, don't play. You need to say, but he's like.
How does that affect you? Like, you must be so worried.
Yes. Well, my biggest worry is him not being able to walk with our kids someday. Just because, like, seriously, I mean, there's, like, coaches and stuff that have been O-line that I like see them walking and they struggle to walk at like age 50, and I'm like, I do not want that to be you. Like, so it is scary, but it's also his decision and his passion, so I'm like, I'll support you regardless.
Have you shared those fears with him?
Yes.
So what do those conversations look like? I mean, you must all have at some point those conversations of, you know, the threat of injury.
Yeah, I think in our house we kind of talk about more so like your head, because that's the part that I'm like, I want my husband there. Like, you promised me forever. Like, I want you. I want to be old and gray with you on the.
Y'all are gonna make me cry.
No, so I think that's the part that worries me the most. Is just like having my husband there. luckily, Isaac has only had one minor concussion in his career, but it's like, if I saw him down the field, it's like, I don't know how I would feel. And I don't know how you do it, because I'm like, I mean, I'm going to knock on wood, but Isaac has not had any injuries like that, and I cannot imagine like seeing him go down and how you feel, because like you want to jump out there. Right. Actually, one of the girls from one of our teams did do that. She literally got on the field. Right. I was like, go ahead, sis.
Right.
I would do
I mean, as a quarterback, Jared is a little more protected, but still, I mean, how do you feel about that? Because he's also, just everyone's charging at this one guy.
He has a blind side.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I think when I'm watching the game, like, I'm stressed for like a number of reasons, but I'm always stressed that, you know, I mean, all of us, we're always hoping that, you know, nothing happens. We hope they come out healthy and stuff. But yeah, he's battled some injuries, and like, I mean, it's crazy what they do, and they continue to like I remember like 2 years ago, he broke his thumb, and then like he was throwing in the next game, or like 2 games after. It was like they're like superhuman to like, I would never, like I would be like, sorry, like goodbye, like I'm gone.
I would love to see like an Apple Watch on you during game day, because I'm sure your heart rate is
you
just
guys
like.
would think I'm crazy. I do not, like I think I get like 10,000 steps, because I'm just pacing. Yes, I'm a crazy person.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Has there ever been, you know, one moment that sticks out in your head where you think, oh, wow, that was like a really big hit that really scared you?
There's been a couple. Yeah, there's been a couple times where like, the worst thing is I don't know if like you guys, if it's the same for you guys, but when I hear their helmets smash, I get so scared. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's just so loud, and you just know, like you said, it's their head, and like the head is just so much. That, like at the end of the day, we want them walking, and we want them to be able to throw a ball and stuff, but at the end of like, your head is everything. So at the end of the day, whether or not it's your intelligence, like kind of academically, or it's like your mental health or whatever it is, your head is kind of the center for everything. So them getting smacked in the head is the craziest part for me. I'm always looking at him like, okay, is he walking normal? Does he look like he's there all the way?
Have y'all like also experienced a concussion like in the game?
Like us physically?
Well, not you.
I'm like, yeah, banging my head on the wall after a loss. Isaac had a minor one, and I mean, I think that's something that he's scared of, personally. So, I mean, he was like, lights off, like nothing for a week, like no electronics, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm like, love it, because I'm like, yeah, you take care of yourself. Like, yeah, I love that. But thankfully, nothing bigger than that. Good. But I feel like any guy, I mean, one of his best friends got a concussion, and he didn't even know, nobody knew he was concussed, and he kept going up to Isaac, he's like, what's going on again? And like literally asking him what team they were playing in, all these questions. And as a wife, it's like, I mean, these players have families, they have friends, they have people that care about them. And so any injury is like nails on a chalkboard, and it makes you feel sick to your stomach.
Yeah, especially even if you're not watching your own person, like watching anything, any guy out there like getting hurt, it's just such a reminder that this is like a dangerous sport, and like they have their bodies on the line every single time they go out there, and it's like,
and the
very
replays.
scary.
I'm like, can we stop replaying this footage? It's disgusting.
Right. I feel so bad every single time someone gets injured. Yeah. And I don't think I had the same empathy that I have now versus when I was like in high school and would see a football game and see someone get hurt. I'd be like, oh, I got hurt. Not saying that I didn't care, but it just wasn't the same.
It makes it a little bit more personal.
It definitely does, because like you said, you realize like, man, like his family now
and knowing that how hard these guys work. I mean, this is their dream. Yeah. So to work your ass off all preseason, then only to have like the first game take you out for like the whole season, it's hard mentally on them.
You sacrifice so much, and then also you are watching these games with literally like sitting on pins and needles. I can only imagine that like at some point you might think, where am I in the totem pole? Where do I fall in the totem pole? It's like football, football, football. Like, where does our family, where do I fall in line here? And is there any kind of maybe like resentment where maybe you're not putting me first or our family first, and you're literally risking your life every time you walk onto that field?
I mean, I feel like for like us, when the trade happened, I think we both did a lot of like, well, especially him, like a lot of like inward work, and like during that, he realized and then really talked to me about how like there's just so much more to football. Like while that is his life, it seems like it's just a career, just like anybody has a career. And I think once he kind of got outside that and realized that there's so much more important things, it really helped our relationship too, because it then took the emphasis out. And it's easier said than done. Like, of course, that slips up here and there, but I think having that like common ground and that communication about, no, this is your job. This is not who you are. Like, you play football. You are not just a football player. You're so much more. And I feel like once they can get outside of that, it really helps everything else fall into line. Because if they have a bad game, if they have, you know, a million losses, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't define them. They're just someone that plays football. It's not who they are. I think in turn, it just helps me know where I fit in. And it's not, I'm not competing with his career. Just like if he was a doctor, I wouldn't be like, competing with that.
Do surgery on me.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt like I'm in competition with football. I feel like I take on a lot of responsibilities and, like we said, like a lot more hats because of football. But Jeffrey's been very honest about, like, I told him, like, I was feeling really overwhelmed with Jace when I was trying to do it in Texas, and he was like, do you want me to quit? And I was like,
Oh my God.
I was like, no, I don't. Like, go to work, please. We'll just figure something else out. So Jeffrey's made it really known that, like, he'll choose his family over football. So I really do appreciate that about him.
No, that's awesome. I feel like, yeah, that's huge. And just like them being intentional. Like, I feel like when Dalton is home, he's very intentional with his time. And so I never feel like even if he's gone all day, I feel like he's very intentional about like making me feel heard, making me feel like when he's home, like, what do you need? Like, I'm supported. Like, he's just as much of a support system to me, I feel like, as I am to him. So it like doesn't really feel like I'm like me against football, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like resentment.
But even more so, I'm like, okay, this is what my husband loves. He loves to work out. He likes that grind. I'm like, okay, great. But I think like during the off season, it's like, oh, like I love yoga classes. And so it's like, okay, that's fitness and that's something I like to do. It's something you like to do. Like, let's go together. And I think it's like finding, I mean, that's in any marriage. It's like, oh, like you like to do this. I like to do this. Like, let's do this together.
Yeah. So what are the things that you guys have found that you like to do together?
Go to Target. Well, yeah, we have Target dates, and then we'll just like browse the home section, and he just lets me kind of fill up the cart, and I'm like, cool, that was a nice little date.
Hey, listen, I love Target.
Right.
The year you met Jared, though, they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God, that's cloud nine.
I imagine like there must have been so many amazing moments like leading up to that ride. Is there one that stands out, like this just incredible win?
I mean, I met him right before he reported for training camp. So it was like getting thrown into football season immediately. And then I think I said this earlier, but like we just won. I think we won the first, 11 games or something. So I just was like, wow, like this is so easy. Like you just like go and you like win and then you go home and you have so much fun. Right. And it was a really fun season. But I do feel like we as like a couple grew so much more when like the times were not so fun and the times were tough. Like it brought us so much closer. So like while that was like such a high and like so much fun, like there's also so much good, and of course you want to win, but like there's good in those like low times too. I feel like we became like so like bonded and close.
Jared did the old bait and switch.
Yeah, he did.
He got you with that good season.
It was
like,
fun.
Listen, it's all gonna be roses and
yes.
all gonna be good, and then.
It makes those wins much more sweeter though when you.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
And you don't get them all the time.
So you guys, we all know how it ended that season. Like we didn't get the Super Bowl win. How was it handling that loss, which is just magnified, right? Versus any of the other ones.
Yeah, that one's hard. You're on like the world stage and everybody's watching and everybody has something to say. I remember when we got home from that, we went to dinner and like people like were literally yelling at him across the street, like saying whatever they said. And it was like crazy because it was like, I mean, it was his dream to play in the Super Bowl. And like so many people just never even make it to that moment. Like I remember before the game, he's like, wow, I can't believe I'm going. Like this could be my only shot. Like this doesn't happen all the time. And so he was really so excited to be there. And of course you want to win, but he felt accomplished like getting to that point. But yeah, the come down is like, it's tough.
It's a different type of come down.
It's like a tough come down. Yeah. So it was tough, and then we had a tough season the next year. But I mean, yeah, I think he said it recently, like it just makes you want to get back to that point again so much more because you made it that far and like
you got a taste of it.
You got a taste of it and you want to go back. Yeah.
How was it like for you guys? Because you literally, he walked into the Super Bowl and you had this entire city supporting you guys, and it was all, you know, Jared and the Rams and so much praise and so much support to like a couple hours later, it's a switch turns off and he's getting yelled at from across the street.
Yeah,
How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think that's the nature of football. I feel like we all, like, that's the thing that I go back to is you can't really listen to the praise and you can't really listen because all of it is just noise. And like, as soon as you just take the weight out of the words of other people, the guy across the street, like, who cares what he says? Right. Because also the guy that's like hyping you up, he might turn around the next time and not, you know, it's just like you can't listen to any of that because it doesn't matter. You listen to the people that are around you and like you just stay grounded in that. And like he knows what he did and what he accomplished, and that's all that matters. And the people close to him know that. And whatever people want to say, they can.
You talked about jealousy before. Is there a bit of resentment that you may feel a little bit because you are taking on the brunt of the responsibilities with the baby?
Yeah, and like we said earlier, jealousy and resentment do sound very strong, but for lack of better terms, sometimes, and I just try to use that time to tell Jeffrey, like, immediately when I do feel it, just so that he's on the same page and he knows how I feel, just because I feel like those are emotions that can get really bad if they stay bottled up for a while, and I know that, like, postpartum anger and stuff is a real thing. So I'll tell him, like, hey, I'm kind of jealous of you, and I kind of feel some type of way that you can do this and I can't. And, like, there was an instance where he came home and I was like, okay, can you take Jace so, like, I can shower? And Jeffrey was taking care of Jace, and like Jace was being a little fussy, and Jace like really wants you to walk around with him all the time. Like he wants to walk and pace, like you sit down, he's crying. So Jeffrey was sitting down with him and he was crying, and I was like, can you like walk him around while I get in the shower? And he was like he's okay, I'm taking care of him. So I'm getting in the shower and Jace is crying, and I'm like, can you walk around with him? And he's like, Kim, I'm out here, like I can handle him, he's fine. I'm sitting down with him. And I don't want to invalidate the fact that he can take care of Jace, but it's like, I need you to cater to Jace right now because I don't want to hear him crying because I've heard him all day. I need a moment to myself. So it's like, you can stick this out and hear him crying and know that he's okay and it's not bothering you because you didn't hear him all day. But for me, I need you to do what you need to do right now so I can
You need 5 minutes.
Right. So I need a silent shower. And he was like, he's okay. And it was like, it wasn't enough to know that Jace was okay. I needed Jace to be quiet while I was in that shower. So it's just like little things like that to where I don't feel like he fully understands, because like I said, this is your first time hearing him cry kind of all day. For me, this is already my 30th time I've been hearing him crying, and I need him to shut up right now.
So, ladies, are there babies on the brain? Are we going to be seeing little?
I think it's hard because I think in Isaac's first few years in the NFL, I think I was a little bit too into the NFL, whereas I was like, okay, that's not my identity. I need to follow my own passions, my own dreams, and now I'm like, oh wait, I'm like living out like these dreams that I always had for myself, and I'm like, oh shit, like a baby, like that's I'm like. So then like the off season, while I'm like it's supposed to be my time, it's like, oh wow, okay, so I'm gonna have to give that to a child. But I mean, it's definitely on the brain. Like you're like, I want to have a baby, and
according to your TikTok comments, you're having a baby right now.
I'm like, y'all stay out of my uterus. No, but I think that's something that, I mean, we're going to look forward to. I mean, we do look forward to. And I feel like us being together for 9 years, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's about time.
I think you mentioned, though, that Dalton would love babies.
Yes.
So what do those conversations look like? Because you're at a no, and he's at a I really could.
Yeah, I think it's tough because, so Dalt's 4 years older than me, and he just like really is excited to have a family, like wants to start a family. And so we kind of talk about it. I don't think he's like serious enough. I'm sure he's gonna love me sharing this story, but my brother has a 2-year-old. And so one day we were just talking, and he's like, they were talking about how tired they were. And he's like, why can't they just like put her in a room and go take a nap? And I was like, put the toddler in a room and go take a nap? And he was like, yeah, she'll be fine. There won't be anything in there. I'm like, you can't leave a toddler unsupervised. And then he was like, why? What? She'd be fine, like a quick 30-minute nap. And I'm like, no, that's really not how it works. So like, we're not ready for this yet. And so
Okay, maybe you won't be babysitting.
yes,
your kids.
yeah. Okay, me at least I know, but him, yeah, no, he's gonna be a great dad. He does a lot of work in the community, and like seeing him with kids gets me very excited for him to be a dad. Just maybe some time, maybe wait a year or two.
The baby game day fits.
I can't. Like that's what kills me every time. I'm like, wait, maybe it's time. But no.
Is it time, Christen?
I don't think quite yet, but we're getting closer. We're
Are we
inching
having
our way.
those conversations?
We're having those conversations, but
Okay.
there's still some like loose ends I want to tie up on my own and my career and stuff. And I think Jared's like I think a year and a half younger than me. I'm the older woman, so he's like getting there, but we have some time, I think.
So when you talk about those loose ends that you kind of want to tie up before you have kids, what are those?
I just think in my career, I just want to be fully sick and done with myself. I want to be so over myself. So then when I have my kids, I can just like fully just pour into them and just not even be thinking of anything about me. I'm almost there. I'm really getting towards the end, but I got a few more little things I want to do. Yeah.
So Allison, not so much for you because you met Isaac in college and before he was a professional football player. But when y'all met your significant others, did you think about that? Like, is that something that crossed your mind? Did you know what you were signing up for when you met? No? Okay.
No.
That's not anything that you thought about.
And honestly, Dalton and I, we have never talked about like timeline of like, like I had really never thought about that. I mean, like I had heard stories about like women having their babies alone in the hospital because of a game day or something. But I guess like just hearing you guys talk, like it does make it more real and like, dang, like, I mean, if you could, God willing, plan that, like that's awesome. But like also thinking about how like hard that would be to be in the hospital having a baby and your husband not be there. Like that's crazy to think about.
So life can be like just completely unpredictable for you guys, and it seems like there's just a lot of stability that's lacking in your lives. And I think that's even more amplified by, as you said, Allison, the unknown and the threat of, am I gonna get traded? Am I gonna get cut? Am I gonna be put on practice squad? So can you guys talk about your experiences with that and what that was like for you?
I think it was like a month ago. And now he's back on the 53-man roster. I'm like, I can't keep my head on straight. Like, guys, I don't know.
Like whiplash.
Everyone's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, actually. No, but I was driving in the car, and it was the day after the release date, which everyone dreads, and I get a text message from my husband. He said, I'm going to the front office, and going to the front office, that's like
usually not a good
red flag. Like, hey, you're
Okay.
getting released. And so he let me know he was getting released, and I didn't talk to him for an hour, and I was on the phone with a friend who her boyfriend had gotten released, so I'm crying, she's crying, and like this is just like, and it's like a week ago we were both like, oh, like I'm going to like a game, like I'm living here, I have this apartment, like really excited for the year. And it's like everything you're excited for, you're looking forward to, and it's like, oh, switch, like you can go to this city, you can go to this city, and then like agents start talking and like, okay, like think about this, think about that, and I'm like, oh God, like okay. And it's just emotionally exhausting because you're like, okay, I know I live this blessed life. Like I'm super grateful for all the opportunities I'm given, that my husband's given financially and just like in life. And you're like, I don't want to complain about it. But at the same time, it's like the struggles that you have are valid.
Yeah. Totally.
And it's like realizing that, oh, your husband doesn't have a job. Like, yeah, my husband has been in the NFL for years, but it's like he still doesn't have a job right now.
And Christen, I know Jared got traded, and he was supposed to be in LA for a lot longer than he was. So what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of just speaks to the whole like unknowing of the NFL. Like you can have a big contract somewhere, and it doesn't really mean anything because you can get traded.
The contracts mean nothing.
Yeah.
What are the points? I'm not even understanding. Like I guess the guaranteed money, obviously, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like what the heck? Like with the what's the point in the contract if they can be cut the next day?
I can tell you got to read that fine print. It's all in the fine print.
But I mean, even having like a quarterback fiance, it's like he still's not safe. Like you can still move around, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I remember I was going to dinner with girlfriends that night in LA, And I was just like driving to dinner, and he called me, and he's just like, I got traded.
gosh.
And I was like, wait, what? Like, I just didn't even know that was like a thing, like on the table. Like, it didn't seem real. And I was like, to where? Like, it's like you don't even know what's going on. And like, I remember the first thing he was like, will you come with me? And I was like, of course. Like, of course. That makes me emotional too. But it was just like, of course. And yeah, and so it was hard of like just going through that and, you know, watching the person you love like just have to deal with all of those things. But what's even harder is the people like asking like, wait, I don't get it. I thought he was supposed to be here. Like, how did he get traded? Like, there's just so many questions. And I'm like, I can't answer this right now. We're just trying to figure it out.
Go Google it. Like, I don't know.
Christen, when you were talking about the Super Bowl, you said something really profound, and it was you never let yourself get too high and you never let yourself get too low. How do you stay grounded?
I mean, I think it's when you don't let those things in your life, like a career of football or something like that, you have to remember that there's just more important things. I think that's always what keeps you grounded. I think for me, like working in the community and volunteering, like a lot of us do that. And I think that's always makes you realize like, oh my God, there's just so much more to life. Like there's people that don't have food on the table tonight. Like the Super Bowl doesn't matter, or like whatever, the game doesn't matter. Like there's a lot more important things that we could be worried about. And I think when you take a step back and have that perspective, it like makes everything in life feel like, okay, this is like, we can handle whatever.
Yeah, to see value in like what's going on now and be present in that. I also feel like a way that my husband and I stay grounded is like, we know it can be taken away from you. So like this lifestyle and everything you know can be taken away in an instant. So you need to be grateful for everything that's given to you. And yeah, times are hard, and there's ups and there's downs, but it's like, there are people that would die to be in your shoes, and so you need to be grateful for that. Right. Not saying that you shouldn't, struggle with mental health or things like that, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, be grateful for the cards that you're dealt too.
When it's so short-lived, like the NFL's not forever. Like it's a short stint of time, so you have to be grateful.
I think the average career is what, like 2.5 years?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, everything can be gone in 1 second. Yeah. One injury, one trade, and that could just be the last one, or one cut, and you're just now onto something else.
Is that something that weighs on your mind? Is it just kind of like always in the back of your mind?
I think for them, it probably is. I think for me, I know that's gonna happen eventually, and it's like one of those things where you like picture what that's gonna look like, because it's like you've gotten to know this person. I mean, I've only known Jared when he's in the NFL, and so I'm so excited to know him outside of that too. I mean, I hope I like him. But you know what I mean? Like I'm excited to see like what his interests are and like how different he is, and like when he doesn't have the stress of like football. Like it'll be so cool to like get to know not a whole different person, but like a person in a new way like after this. Yeah, like while I don't want that to happen right now, like it's still like something that will be fun in the future. See what they go after, what careers they pursue.
And I don't feel like they've had the same time that a lot of people get when they, like we were talking about earlier, graduate or whatever, to just kind of like sit and twiddle their thumbs for a second and figure out like what they enjoy and what they want to do. And like, I just think it'll be so funny to see them be out of it. I mean, obviously I want his career to last for as long as he wants it to, but just once he's doing nothing, I'm just like, what do you want to do? Go get a job? Like, do you want to? He always tells me, he's like, I'm ready to be a stay-at-home dad. And I'm like, okay. He's like, you can all handle it for right now, and then we're switching off when I'm done. I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh, wow. There is just so many ups and downs that we've talked about. I feel like just talking about it was exhausting. I mean, the NFL season really like takes a toll on you guys for sure. So luckily, there's an off season. And in that off season, I'm assuming that it's really important to rest and recover. And I think you mentioned, Whitney, that you can't fill someone else's cup unless yours is full. So I think next time we should probably talk about how you guys fill your cup in the off season. Yeah.
I love talking about off season.
Yeah, that already just makes me feel relaxed.
It's the best time of the year.
Like everyone all of a sudden just like, off season.